So Tammi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
What do you want to know? That's very broad. I'm vegan, and I run this vegan restaurant, Nourish, in Bangkok. I do jiu-jitsu here, so Nourish Cafe is inside Bangkok Fight Lab, and that's where I train jiu-jitsu with Morgan. I built the cafe here, partly because I wanted to be able to eat the kind of food that I want to eat, but also so I could just train as much as I want.
Convenient.
Yeah, it's great. It's like perfect. He built this gym, and it was just this huge warehouse space. And even when we were in our previous place, I could see the potential for having a healthy cafe within a gym. I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense. And this was, there was plenty of space, we just looked up one end of the whole place and thought we could easily build a mezzanine there and have a cafe. And to start with, it wasn't air conditioned, and it was really, really hot, way hotter than I thought it would be, just from being, raised up one level and having a tin roof, which, now makes perfect sense. But at the time, I just thought if I put enough fans around that it would be, tolerable, but it really wasn't. So now you can see we've kind of closed it in, and it's air conditioned and nice and pleasant to eat in here now.
How long has Nourish been open?
We opened kind of soft open just to the members of the gym in March 2018, and then open to the public, a month or sometime in April. So it's been 2.5 years now that we've been open. Yeah.
Wow. And how long have you been training BJJ?
I started back in London in 2012, so that would make it 8 years, but I actually had pretty much a year off for some hip operations that I had to have right back at the start. So I really had only done about 6 months of training. Then I had to have a hip operation, one of them. I had one done at a time, so I had one, recovered from that one, managed to get another month or two of training in, then had to have the other one done, so then was off again for another 6 months. And then by that time I was out in Asia, because I came out to Asia towards the end of my recovery from the second one, and I was just so desperate to get back to jiu-jitsu. It was pretty much the only reason why I was going home. But then I just thought, I read Christian Graugart's book, The BJJ Globetrotter, and I realised that I did not need to go back to the UK in order to continue doing jiu-jitsu. I could do it anywhere, as long as I could find a few other people to train with. And so then I ended up living in Myanmar, and with a group of guys there who were also white belts, predominantly, and just training, learning from each other. We all had a little bit of experience from different things. And when you're a white belt, that's fine, when you're just starting out. So I guess 8 years minus the kind of year of operations, so 7 years in total.
Okay. And I heard that you had some experience officiating in a ring, or can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Not in the ring.
Uh-huh.
That still scares the hell out of me. Actually refereeing matches of any kind, even jiu-jitsu, let alone, Muay Thai or MMA. That really does scare me. I see my friends who do it, and I total respect for that. But I have been lucky enough to be able to do some judging and some timekeeping. And it's just really cool, being an official for these events, especially the MMA. More recently done, some Muay Thai as well, and that's great. But I don't know so much about the Muay Thai still. MMA, I've been watching MMA, I remember the first UFCs, and I definitely had a period of time when I was running my last business when I was kind of out of the entire martial arts world for a while. But, I was training martial arts from 18 and watching these kind of things, then went back to it a few years later and have been doing it in one capacity or another ever since, and, love watching MMA. I love training in an MMA gym, even though I only do jiu-jitsu. I love watching the MMA guys and kind of, being in that atmosphere where we have striking going on as well. It's really fun to just be a part of a live show, just be ringside. I mean, it is the best seat in the house, and not only do you not pay for that, you're actually getting paid most of the time, not all the time, but it's cool. It's who wouldn't want to do that, It can be quite stressful. Judging is stressful because you have to be so focused. You literally cannot take your eyes off what's happening, and you have to be you know, you can't let your mind wander. You have to be really on it, because, you know, the fighters it wouldn't be fair to the fighters, right, if you weren't paying full attention and trying to give it your best. So that's, you know, that's one challenge. Timekeeping is a whole other challenge. Like, I'm kind of a bit more used to it now, so I'm a bit more relaxed, but like, to begin with, when I was doing it, I literally had my fingers over every timer. You know, I was like, oh, I might have to, you know, stop or start a timer any second now, but then you realise, no, I'm not going to have to do anything, you know, or I can get to a timer in perfectly good time if something happens, when you are more familiar with what can happen. But yeah, to start with, that's quite nerve-wracking as well.
Can you tell us a fact about judging and a fact about timekeeping that a lot of people don't know about?
Well, with the judging, it depends on the rule set, obviously. Like, I've only just been trained as a judge for one championship, and then done judging for other shows like FMD and a few others that use the same rule set. And so, you know, that's one thing that maybe people watching don't understand, that there are different ways of judging, different ways of scoring. And of course, Muay Thai and kickboxing is scored differently to MMA, and so yeah, maybe that's one thing. Like, the global rule set is kind of, you know, you judge the whole fight, you know, so it's not round by round. And I think most people, because of boxing, are kind of used to things being judged round by round. That was certainly something that I didn't realise until I kind of got trained in it, and that was an interesting thing, because it can result in a different result, you know, it can leave a different result. Like, you yeah, you might just think, like, over the entire fight that a particular fighter has just done better. You look at your scorecard where you've you know, made all your kind of remarks and points, and you're like, yeah, that fighter won, but maybe if you'd done it round by round, it wouldn't have necessarily worked out that way, you know. So that's one thing for judging, but I'm still really a novice with judging, you know, I'm still kind of like learning myself with that. So with timekeeping, yeah, I don't know whether most people even give the timekeeper a second thought, you know. I think you hear the bell, and you hear the buzzer, and you hear the clappers, and it's just part of if you've been watching fight sports, you know, all your life, and most people, unless you're really younger than me, grew up with boxing first, you just become used to these sounds, you know. You're just like, okay, yeah, end of round, you don't think much about it. But of course, someone has to be there, like, looking at the clock and being, you know, careful to do the right thing at the right time. I was reading a book recently about a guy who was actually a champion judo player, but he got into chess boxing, and he also did some officiating for some of the kind of first ever chess boxing matches. And he was talking about, like, you know, specifically, like, not ringing the bell, you know, because or ringing it early because of something that was happening that he wanted, you know, which he knew wasn't, you know, right, but these are just amateur matches. And I mean, from what I know, there's no way you could do that or get away with that, or, you know, or would even want to do that. You know, I've only done timekeeping really for one championship, and man, you know, they are strict to the second, which is how it should be. You know, one of my own teammates here was fighting, and he got choked out, literally unconscious, because he wouldn't tap a second after the bell. And, you know, like, if I was a different person in a different promotion, you know, the temptation to just, like, ring that bell a second earlier and, like, save your teammate. But there's no way I was going to do that, you know. It was what it was, and you know, unfortunately, he lost that fight.
Well, thank you, Tammi, for having us in your cafe today. We had a really, really good time and really enjoyed the food.
Pleasure. Please come again.
We will.